Welcome to Getting Quipy, an interview show with members of the D&D community, from artists to world builders. If you have something you'd like to see on the show, send us an email at quipsandcrits@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter. Till then, enjoy the show. Well, as you know, John, my name is Dan Wolf. I'm the DM and the host of a lot of Quips and Crits shows. And you are?
I'm Jonathan of D&D Duet, and we are relatively new website and blog and D&D adventure writing kind of little startup. We've got a few things on DM's Guild now, and we specifically focus on one-on-one play. So playing with like one player and one DM.
Now, the small startup, accurate, but I did see that Second Chance got over 1,000 downloads.
Yes, Second Chance has 1,000 downloads, and I think that our first adventure, First Blush, has maybe 3,500 downloads or so.
Wow!
And these are pay what you want titles. When we started D&D Duet, my wife and I were really interested in building a duet community, give them the resources to play D&D with, one other person. It's a lot easier to schedule. It's a lot more intimate. And so just kind of a thank you to our community, we wanted to do the first 3 adventures, pay what you want. So 3,500 downloads for First Blush, and then 1,000 for Second Glance, and we're really excited to be putting out Third Time's the Charm soon. To be honest, I didn't really know a lot of people were out there running one-to-one D&D sessions until, and I'm blanking on the podcast, that I think I actually saw your posts through them. Yeah, me, my spouse, and Adai, they're at Adai on Twitter. Gwyneth and Austin are amazing. We've partnered with them to put out a couple of articles. They were one of our featured duets when we were starting out. And watching their success kind of just grow and snowball. They launched about the same time that we did. And they're an actual play podcast, whereas we're focused on, writing and designing adventures and kind of giving people the tools to run their duets.
What's interesting about that is you didn't go the podcast route, which I think with hindsight is a great idea, because take it from me, there are a billion 5th edition podcasts out there. But you went in this opposite direction of creating resources. Mm-hmm. What prompted that?
Well, we kind of went where our gifts lie. I have a master's degree in English, and my wife is working on her PhD. And we both love to write and create worlds, and we've had so much fun building that world together and spending that quality time with one another that we wanted to share that with the world. It's actually kind of a funny story. I was positive for the longest time that there was this great website full of resources for people playing one-on-one games. And I talked about this website as if I'd seen it, and I just knew it existed. And then when I actually sat down and went there, it didn't exist. And so Beth and I just kind of decided to make it.
You're doing a role-playing group at your school, at the high school?
Yes. So I'm the faculty advisor for the Tabletop Role-Playing Game Club, which really means that we get together and we play 5e. That's something that a student came to me. He knew that I played, and he wanted to see if he'd start something up, and he's since graduated, but I've kept it going, and we continue to grow and have more and more kids playing D&D. It's amazing.
I think that's a big deal. When I started playing a couple of years ago, my buddy started a 5e campaign, but he was going through a lot of stuff, a lot of emotional turmoil, and he was able to work through a good portion of that by just kind of expressing it through his campaign. And I think that when you take that kind of creative liberty and apply it to what is honestly kind of a tough part of life, high school, that's probably super healthy for those kids.
It's been amazing watching many of them kind of come out of their shell. They come into club and they're nervous, and they don't know what to do, and It seems like this big daunting thing when they're handed a character sheet. Then the other students that have been there for a little bit longer start, we're walking them through the sheet. All of a sudden, they go from this timid kid to this, mighty dragonborn paladin that's, slaying, hordes of undead, and that's something that they can kind of count on. And it's been incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding.
Let's talk characters from those high school games. Tell me one of these characters and tell me something really cool they've done.
Gosh, I don't know. There's so many great examples. I think one of my favorite pairs of characters, I have a Dragonborn Paladin whose name is Ark. And Ark is being a Dragonborn Paladin, he's one of the mightier kind of forces that we contend with, and he's so he's just kind and wholesome and good. And when he does lay on hands, he hugs the person, like he gives his lay on hands through hugs, and it's just kind of adorable. And I put him in some kind of tough situations, as we've played, and he always relentlessly takes the path of good, kind of like we were talking about before. Even when it's kind of suboptimal or if it's inconvenient, he'll still do that. And then his best friend is like a half elf fighter type with a drinking problem, and which is really funny to see, a high school individual play out
what it's like to drink.
Yeah. And who is very kind of neutral, and that they're looking out for themselves, but they're best friends with this super good paladin. And so sometimes that creates conflict in what they're trying to do, but they do such a great job of role playing that conflict and staying in character and making decisions like that. I set them up against we play for 1 hour every Monday and Wednesday. So our sessions have to be incredibly snappy. Anyways, I sent them on the trail of some cultists that were in some abandoned church or anything, and they were doing like a snake demon sacrifice in the bottom, and they didn't know it, but it was too far gone by the time they got to the sacrifice to save them or anything. But Ark was adamant that he was going to save them, and almost ended up getting the whole party killed as the sacrifice turned into like a snake demon thing, and then the fallout of that is just very silly. It's very much more lighthearted than I'm making it sound, but our school club game is more fun and quirky.
I have a deep soft spot for like Western inspired heroes. Ark already has my favor. I love him. Absolute. Just the relentless altruist, just it's too late, we can't save them. Yes, we can. Yeah, man, I love Ark already.
Yeah, Ark definitely is a white hat.
But speaking of WotC, you guys just got a donation from Wizards of the Coast, right?
We did. I emailed their customer support, and I was telling them about how amazing our club is, but we've far outgrown like the resources that I started the club with. And so we started with I would bring my own home copy of the player's handbook and the monster manual, and that was it. And we invested in like a sack of dice. But then at the beginning of this year, we had such a high interest, we went ahead and bought like a club, like player's handbook and monster manual. And that was fine for when we had 1 or 2 games running, but now we've got 4 games running. I got 4 DMs that are trying to share a monster manual, or leveling up 30 kids takes forever when you have 1 player's handbook.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them with kind of that problem, and they very kindly sent kind of a care package of player's handbook and a monster manual, and they gave us a starter set and a dungeon master's guide, which the club didn't have before. So now my DMs are kind of fighting over that, wanting to take a look at that.
So if I was interested in maybe reading in the future a sort of a fantasy novel based on somebody's first campaign, where would I find a book like that in the future?
Well, Dan, let me tell you, the very best place to go for something like that in the future will be Grove Guardian Press.
What is that?
Grove Guardian Press is kind of it's our parent concept for D&D Duet. We want D&D Duet to be really specifically catering to one-on-one play and kind of growing that community. But we have a lot to say and think and write about in regards to the larger world of D&D and fantasy and what telling our stories can do for each other. And so that's why we've decided to launch Grove Guardian Press, and that will be host to more OGL adventures in the future, things that might not necessarily be on DM's Guild, but also we're interested in perhaps putting together writing workshops for world builders, and we want to kind of collect some wonderful resources for dungeon masters, and Beth is writing the novelization of our first game right now, and that'll eventually be available through that platform.
I think I saw you posted an update on that recently.
Yes, I think she's a quarter of the way through, which is really exciting. She's keeping a novelist, kind of an aspiring novelist journal on Grove Guardian Press, and so that's very much her baby. What is this? I have like a rough draft here.
The Buried Heroes?
That's the plan right now. Indeed. Wow. I don't want to say
great.
Too much.
So, in your storied career of Dungeons and Dragons, you probably have had a lot of adventures, you had some characters die. What was a poignant moment that made you go, oh my God, anything can happen, good or bad, that just really opened you up to this game?
Well, speaking of my storied career, Dan, I've been playing for 2 years now, so I don't know how storied it is.
A lifetime. A lifetime.
A few characters' lifetimes, yeah. Characters cut short. And my very first game was run by a good buddy of mine, and he did it in a homebrew world, and that was my very first introduction to D&D. And I knew growing up that if I ever had the chance to play D&D, I would just love it. And I never had that chance until a couple of years ago. And turns out I was right, because D&D is awesome. I played Aeschylus Grimm, a human fighter, because I was just starting out. I didn't want to do like a martial class, but I very cleverly went Battle Master to kind of like have some tactical option. Gosh, there were so many great moments in that first campaign. I think one of the things that stands out to me, and especially being totally new at the game, I didn't know anything about, I didn't have any meta knowledge of any of the monsters or anything. And so we were in this arena situation, kind of gladiatorial style, and we saw the object of the match kind of floating innocuously in the middle of the arena, and Grimm's like, okay, great, this is easy. He's just counting on us to like overthink this. And so I just run straight forward and immediately, of course, become stuck in a gelatinous cube, which of course the item was suspended in. And later on he picked up a ring of ram, and so we used to fight on a lot of platforms, and Grimm would just force shove people off of the things, and then suddenly no platforms anymore. But
a lot less platforms from that day forward.
It was just really fun to kind of see like, oh yeah, I can take weird routes, or ask to try things that are kind of crazy. And I think one of the things that I love the most about D&D is like anything can happen, but there are also kind of like consequences for actions that I don't think any like standard video game could possibly script or prepare for. The freedom of play that you can have in a tabletop role-playing game.
I have the idea from personal experience that if you're sitting in front of your group, one of them is going to be a DM. The end of the first year of my first campaign, my friend Katie, I'm going to try and run a campaign. Do you want to play in it? And I got to play this character that to this day I think about playing still. And in that campaign, her now husband is a DM. And I think as long as you nurture your players, they will go and DM.
It's been one of the coolest things seeing from D&D Club, like having started last year. A lot of my other DM graduated, and it was just me DMing and he was DMing, and that was it. And he graduated. And I was worried about the future of the club, but I had several of my strong players from last year who are my DMs this year, and they're bringing up the underclassmen as well. So when they cycle out, we'll kind of continue. It's almost like a mentor relationship. You're making that into something that somebody's like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Well, being a DM isn't easy, but if you dedicate to it, if you're willing to put a little bit of time, it's very easy to pick up, and it's incredibly fulfilling. I personally tell a brand new DM to start off, have a town and have a job board. Put 3 jobs on the board and do that small story. What do you give these students trying to step up to the big chair?
I wanted this year, because I knew I was going to have some brand new DMs that had played a little bit, but had never run a game before. And I wanted to do this. I had these grand plans of okay, on Mondays, we're going to run games. And on Wednesdays, it's just going to be me and my DM novices that I'm mentoring. And we're going to talk about what went well and stuff like that. And I think that's probably an all right plan. But then actual real life happened and people didn't care about that so much. And they just wanted to play. I have to remind myself that it's okay for them to get into this and make mistakes and ask for the wrong rolls and add the modifier incorrectly. And guess what? As long as nobody's being mean to each other, then we're all still having fun, and it's like D&D is still happening. So it's all right. And so for me, it's kind of a process of letting go a little bit, like providing the tools and being available to answer questions. But they were just in the thick of it, then that's where they put themselves. That's where they wanted to be. And as long as everybody's having fun, then I'm happy to do it,
It's kind of a mama bird relationship. You just got to let them fly out of the nest.
Yeah.
So between writing, you're sharing a campaign, a full-time job, your after-school activity, how do you balance it all? What is the secret to just being this busy all the time? I should have screenshotted that look because you were like, "Why?" Like, I don't know. I don't sleep.
I think the secret is to do what you love and find people that are passionate about those things and ready to do those things with you. I'm very fortunate because I love what I do every single day. I get up in the morning and I get to go talk about literature and ideas, and my students are amazing, and so I love what I do. And then after school Mondays and Wednesdays, I love playing D&D with those kids.
I think that's really great advice. Now, I don't know if you happen to have any dice in front of you.
I've been curious about trying this game out.
Well, you've already won the game because the game is called You Are John. So today's game is going to be You Are Nathan. Nathan. So what you're going to need is a D6. Excellent. Wait, are those the blue? Are those like the steel gray, blue and gray?
Steel gray, blue gray, Chessex. These were a wedding present from my first DM to me. And yeah, I love them. So
You Are Nathan is a pretty easy game. You and I are going to be, and this might be a fairly new concept to you, switching roles as DM. Now, what we're going to do is that we're first going to decide a time and place. So we want, like, the beach in the middle of the day. Something like that. Or 1922 Prohibition America. What's a good platform?
I think that we should probably do the Victorian era. I think Jane Austen style. And we should be in on a country estate.
Excellent. The character of John is a deeply confused individual. He is, in fact, from a much later period of time. Let's say he's from tomorrow. And he has been teleported back to the Victorian era on a countryside estate. Now, he has to complete one goal. And you and I are going to pick a goal we want John to accomplish. And when we're not being the game master, we have to try and complete that secret goal without the other DM knowing.
I see.
Take a quick thought. What would be a good goal for your version of John to want to commit? Not commit, but accomplish. Do you know yours?
And does this goal need to be something that somebody from from our time or tomorrow would be like needing to do in this time period, or does it really matter?
It doesn't really matter. It can be something someone would logically do, something funny. You know, he has to try and run and swim across the lake. It could be something as easy as that. He could try and accuse the butler of murder. Really, just whatever you think is the funniest. I have picked something I think is very funny, and I'm going to attempt to do that under your nose.
Perfect. Okay.
So, when we play, and you are not the DM, and in fact you are John, you're going to roll a d6 whenever you try to do anything that is especially strenuous. As the DM, you can be as broad or petty as you want. So like, you walk up to a door. Oh, the door is locked. I try to find a key, or I try and kick the door open. You'll roll your d6. On a 1 or a 2, John has an episode, and we switch. On a 3 or 4, he has a moderate success. A 5 and a 6, he has a great success.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's do a d6 initiative roll. Whoever rolls the highest gets to be John first.
Beat a 6.
No. I dare you to beat a 1 in golf. So, you are going to be John first. So, John, the game John, you fell asleep tomorrow night. And instead of waking up in your New York side apartment, the neon lights blaring through, keeping you awake, you instead wake up in a posh, cozy bed on a far distant countryside. When you wake up, you see that the sun is shining, and it appears to at least be a nice summer day with blue skies. As you look around the room, you see that the door is closed and there's a small window that looks out into a great yard. Let's say there's a grove. And there is a cup of tea and a little bit of in a pot in which to pour from. You see that it is steaming warm. You are in a fancy nightgown and clothes have been set out for you to adventure about the day. What do you do?
Well, I'd like to get out of bed and walk over to the window and rub the sleep out of my eyes and look out the window and see what I can see.
Okay. So roll a d6. We'll see what you see.
A 1.
Oh, a 1. So now something really bad is going to happen. As you go over to the window to look out of it, you see that the window's a little dirty. And as soon as you open it up, a bird flies in and smashes John right in the face. He then becomes disoriented and confused. And now I'm John.
Well, all right, John. You've just been hit in the face with a bird. What do you do?
I swear really, really loud. And then, I certainly can't have a bird in my room. I would like to try and grab my pants and start swinging them around to try and chase the bird out of my room.
We certainly got a roll for that.
Certainly. A 6.
Well, John, you're incredibly dexterous and quick on your feet. You parkour off of the cabinet and you manage to trap the bird in your pants, and very, very Dwight v. Bat are able to control it and take it to the window and eject it without any problem straight out of the window. And as you do, you see a very posh lady walking the grove who gives you a nod and kind of an appreciative kind of look like, oh, good day. Well done.
I look down to her, say, Good day, madam. And I pull myself in the window, and I begin to get dressed.
Okay, let's see how good you are getting dressed.
Another 6.
John, you were very successful at putting your clothes on. You, you one leg in one pant leg, and then the other leg without a problem. And you assemble yourself, and looking in the mirror, you think, damn, I look good today.
Damn, it's a good day to be John. All right, well, it's early morning, and I am kind of reeling against the fact that I'm having this very interesting dream. So I'm going to go explore this dream to the most of its ability. I'm going to leave my room.
Okay. Letting the hot tea and whoever brought it for you to the side, you make your way valiantly to the door, and you put your hand on the door, and you open the door with a roll. Let's see how the door is doing.
A 2.
A 2. Well, that door seems to be pretty stuck. It doesn't seem like it's locked, but maybe just jammed.
Now, a 1 and a 2 means John switches.
Oh.
Yes.
So as you built up a lot of static electricity from your frantic bird catching exploits, and as you reach out to touch the door, bzap! You get zapped a little bit.
All right, John, you've just suffered a terrible electrical shock. You kind of look over to the mirror that you dressed yourself in, and you see that your hair is standing up on end, but your violent shaking was able to jar the door, and you see that it'll now creak open. When you look out, you see that there's a long hallway. There is a set of those 2 big doors that looks like it goes into a much bigger room. A couple paces in front of you, directly across from it, there are stairs that go down into kind of what would I say, a lobby? I hate to say a lobby. That sounds too...
A parlor, a foyer.
A parlor, thank you. Yes, it goes down to a parlor, and at the very end of the hall, you see that there is another door, very similar to your own. It too was closed.
Well, I think I would like to make my way to the large doors and see if I can throw those open and see if anybody's around.
You throw them open with relative ease. As they swing open, you see that there's a massive dining hall, and you see that there are tables and candles and lights beginning to be refreshed. It looks like there's some sort of summer gala going on at some point today, but you're at the early stages of it.
Thinking it's always best to show up really early to things like this. I think I'm going to walk into the room and see if I can find any ostentatious decorations, perhaps a ridiculous flower or something to put in my boutonniere.
Let's give it a roll.
All right.
I think I'm on to you.
I got a 5.
Ooh, okay. As you look around, you do see that one of the maid hands have just come in, and she has a large bouquet of flowers that she's beginning to place into a vase. You see that they're definitely your more countryside summer type flowers. It looks like they bloomed not too long ago, so there's a very fresh cut and a nice smell coming from them.
Wonderful. I will approach her and see if I can have a flower. Please, I'll say, greetings, madam. I was wondering if I could trouble you for a delicious daffodil.
A delicious daffodil. I think that's a roll.
I think that's a roll.
And I think you're goosing me here. I think you're running for the finish line. So yeah, let's see a roll.
I got a 3.
A 3? So she kind of looks at you. She has a look of confusion on her face, and she just kind of nods. It's almost like she doesn't exactly recognize you. But she begins to kind of pick through the bouquet, and she gives you a flower that is not a daisy.
I will bow graciously and affix it to my boutonniere, and I'll say to her, and are the lord and lady of the house awake at this hour?
She looks to you and she says, well, yes, they are outside near the garden. They just had the maze trimmed, and I believe they're out inspecting it.
Well, I shall hitherto forthwith.
Okay.
And John's gonna do an about face and make his way down the stairs into the foyer.
Now, I have personally made a lot of about faces. Literally. And I know they can go terribly wrong. So let's roll a d6 and we're going to attach that to your ankles. See if they can snap.
I got a 2.
You do an about face. One of your shoelaces have come undone. And as you turn, one of your ankles doesn't turn with you. And you quickly turn and fall flat upon your face, knocking you senseless. I look at the ground, the carpet smells okay, and I'm going to try and fix that shoe.
Okay, that's probably going to be a roll to see if you can, how damaged it is.
Okay, 2.
2?
Yep.
As humiliated, obviously, you turn yourself around, and as you're pulling your shoelace tight to fix it, the shoelace snaps and you punch yourself in the face, going down again. The scream of shock from the maid as she flees the room, echoing in your ears as they turn red. And I'm just laying at the ceiling wondering what is happening. So as John, I'm going to crawl for the top of the stairs.
All right, you have crawled to the top of the stairs. As you look down, you see that it's a pretty sturdy flight. Looks like there's a landing halfway down, and at the bottom there looks to be, as you have learned, unforgiving tile.
Perfect. I'm going to pick myself up and try to walk down the stairs.
All right, with your currently broken shoe, you don't have anything to kind of fall down. And if you're willing to walk down the stairs slowly, then you'll make it to the bottom all right.
Okay,
When you make it to the
very
bottom,
cautious.
as you get to the bottom of the parlor, you look to your left and you see what looks like a room with a couple couches and more ornate chairs set around a table, something you may recognize to be a tea room. And across from that, you see that there is another room that it seems like it's been cleared out. It looks like tall ashtrays have been added. In both of those rooms at the front of the house, you see there are great large stained glass windows that kind of have a colorful light pouring in from the outside. And directly in front of you see 2 large doors that will apparently take you outside.
Fantastic. As I've already had quite a harrowing morning, I think that I'm going to go to the tea room and see if there are any biscuits or anything that I can kind of take before I venture outside.
As you go walking in, you begin to kind of look through this room. You see that one of the helping hands, older gentleman, is actually walking through a door that leads deeper into the house. As he's walking in, you see that he has a cup that looks like of cold tea and what looks like a half-eaten biscuit on a plate.
I'm going to say wonderful, and I'm going to say, my dear sir, if I could please relieve you of that tray and your half devoured charge, and I'm going to try to talk him out of the cold tea and half-eaten biscuit.
All right, give it a roll.
I got a 6.
He turns to you and he looks and he says, well, it's a bit unusual to hand discarded food over, but if you insist, sir, I certainly could not deny you. And he places the cold tea and the biscuit on a small tea tray and he hands it to you.
Fantastic. I'm going to take my winnings and I'm going to go outside.
Oh, okay. You get to the front door and you see that it's partially ajar. You can see kind of in the distance, it looks like a cat is walking along the right side. From where you've been oriented, you can guess if you go left, you'd find your way to the maze. It's directly in front of you. You see what looks like a large yard, and there's a pond not too far away. And it looks like some games have been set out. Some small, colorful balls and mallets with some spikes that they're to be hit against. A game you don't recognize, but you could probably suss out. What do you want to do?
You said this cat is going off to the right. To the right, do I see anything else?
To the right, to the right?
To the right, yes. I'm going to follow the cat.
Okay. So as you begin to follow the cat, it actually slows down and it turns to you. It begins to hiss.
I'm going to get on one knee and take a little piece of the biscuit and offer it to the cat.
I think we need to adjust the rules here. I think I've set you up a trap, and you are just kind of really negotiating your way through. So roll the d6 with advantage. I think this is a clever way to get around my shenanigans.
I rolled a 6.
Very good.
On my first roll.
You hand the cat the biscuit, and it accepts it and begins to nibble.
So, I'm going to I pet the cat.
You fed the cat. It was a great success. You can pet the cat. Yeah.
Okay, I pet the cat.
Yeah.
And I say, kitty, kitty, take me to your friends.
As you finish petting the cat, it looks up to you and it says, meow. But it doesn't meow. It says, meow. And it begins to walk towards the stables.
Fantastic. I follow the cat.
As you follow the cat further to the stables, you can hear the sound of horses just kind of neighing, pushing their manes around. You see that there is a farmhand, a young boy who's just kind of shoveling shit out of a stall. The cat looks up to you and it says, get rid of the boy. Meow.
I'm going to say, I will see what I can do. Young sir.
Yes?
Young sir, I've been sent to by the lord and lady of the house to deliver you this delicious refreshment. It's something that is just catching from across the pond. It's a cold tea. I know they'll do anything crazy over there, but this should be refreshing to you, and you are to try it and report to the lady about how it quenches your thirst from your perspirations.
All right, go ahead and roll a d6.
Okay. 5.
All right. He looks a bit curious, but he walks over and he takes the tea and he takes the biscuit and he looks at it a bit confused. And he's going to take a drink of the tea. I'm going to see how he thinks of the tea. He thinks it's all right. He just says, okay, my lord, I shall go report on it.
Yes, she's worried about her guests perspiring in the sun as you have been, and she wants to know if this is an acceptable refreshment and thought to test it on you. So scurry off now.
And the boy leaves. The cat looks to you and he says, good work, meow.
Thank you.
One of the horses just kind of pulls over the side and he looks over and he says, can he be trusted?
I'm going to look at the horse and say, absolutely. You are the reason I've come.
All right, roll the d6 to see if you can convince the horse.
Come on. 3.
3? That's a moderate success. The horse narrows his eyes. A couple of the other horses have pulled themselves aside, and one of the horses leans over and says, then swear fealty. And you can see across, there is a glowing hot red iron.
I'll say, I shall do so on the on the assurance that you will help me be as free as the wind. And I'm gonna see if he'll feel promised to let me ride him.
D6.
4.
The horses look back and forth. They nod. The cat looks to you and he says, "They accept your terms. Meow."
I very solemnly nod to the cat, and while maintaining eye contact with the horse the entire time, I'm going to go over and just brand my forehead. Sizzle of meat on iron.
You were able to brand yourself? Was your goal to ride a horse?
My goal is to ride a horse, yes.
You're able to mount the horse, and it says, "Now we will destroy the upper class."
So we ride over, and I snatch one of those mallets, and we get to work.
Believe it or not, my goal was to use sports equipment to break a window.
Perfect.
Yep. You beat me, and then you beat my goal.
Well, I think we both accomplished what we set out to do.
Indeed. Well, John, thank you so much for sitting and talking with me and playing my ridiculous little game. I look forward to see what the Grove Guardian Press puts out.
Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I don't know, it's been real. I'll see you around the interwebs, and holler at me anytime.
I may do so soon. Thank you very much, John. Have a great night.
All right, have a great night.